Does cooking with convenience foods actually save time? Campbell Soup Company sure thought so when they started publishing their own brand name recipe cookbooks. They started publishing pamphlets, magazine inserts, and cookbooks like this one, with the goal of showing busy working women just how many ways they could use their products. By using their products, they were becoming modern, not lazy, modern. And who doesn't want to be modern? Well, today I want to test that claim. Getting food on the table as fast as possible has been the challenge for women, past, present, and future, and it is also my daily challenge. Today we're going to test two separate recipes of beef stroganoff, one from Campbell's cookbook, Campbell's Cooking with Soup cookbook, and the other one from this American Home All-Purpose Cookbook. Both are dated for 1960. This one is specifically from 1966, and this one is from 1968. I'm curious to see if Campbell's soup will eliminate enough steps and ingredients to get the meal out faster. And by doing that, are we sacrificing any flavor? Let's find out. Before we jump in, let's do a quick comparison of both of these recipes. Campbell's recipe lists a total of 8 ingredients and a total cook time of 45 minutes starting after the meat is browned, where the all-purpose cookbook is listing 12 ingredients and a cook time of well, it doesn't actually list a cook time, but it just mentions that we're going to be simmering for 10 minutes after the meat is browned. Both recipes are using sirloin strips as the beef for the recipe, but have you seen the price of beef lately? So we're going to use some ground beef for both of them. Campbell's recipe is asking us to serve the stroganoff over noodles, and the all-purpose cookbook is asking us to serve the stroganoff over rice. So that's another difference in the recipe. And hold on. Campbell's recipe is going to be using cream of mushroom soup, and the all-purpose cookbook is using a can of condensed beef broth. Now the question is was beef broth considered a convenience food? And I would say yes, because when you make broth, it takes a long time to do it and you make it in bulk, but they would have made it and then canned it for later use. So both of these recipes are actually using convenience foods. So to keep it fair in the comparison of convenience food versus cooking from scratch, I'm going to use some of my homemade beef broth, conveniently canned already. So we're saving time already with the 6 hours of making the broth. Okay, that looks like all the substitutions that we'll have for these two recipes. After looking at the recipes and comparing the timelines and the number of ingredients, it does look on paper that Campbell's is going to come out ahead as far as being faster, which then we'll be concerned with, are we losing flavor? To ensure that I'm capturing the total time it takes to make each recipe, I'm going to make each recipe separately, and I'll start a timer once I put the meat on the stove. So I'm not going to count time in collecting ingredients, which right now I already have my ingredients for the all-purpose cookbook recipe, and I'll stop the clock once the stroganoff has been plated and ready for serving. So the criteria that I'm using to judge our two plates or two stroganoff recipes are the total cook time, the number of decisions that have to be made, the total number of ingredients, and then the flavor. I honestly don't know how this is going to turn out, but let's get cooking. Okay, let's go over our ingredients for the all-purpose. So it's the American Home All-Purpose Cookbook, and its published date right here, 1966. Can you see that? Yep, there you go. Okay, So it says 2 pounds of tenderloin or sirloin, which we're going to use 2 pounds of ground beef. We're going to have our butter right here. We've got mushrooms here. 1 onion. I will have to slice this up. And then our beef broth. We're going to use, it says a half a cup of dry white wine or water, but we're going to use water. And then salt, pepper, some sour cream right here. Some chopped parsley and minced chives, which I do not have chives. And we're going to use dry parsley. Okay, well, let's get this thing started on the stove and we'll start our timer. So instructions say we're going to brown the meat first, so I'm going to stay true with that and go ahead and get that browning. All right, let's set this timer. That's not one. Can you see it? All right, well, let's go. 2 pounds. Let's chop that. Same thing, don't want to peel. Okay, so it says it's really just saying 1 cup of sliced onion, but I think this 1 onion will be enough. Okay, it's sliced and ready. So it says cut our meat, cut in slices. We're going to heat the butter. So we would use the butter for browning the meat, but since we don't have the sirloin, we're going to not use that. We're going to go ahead and brown that meat, and then after that, we're going to saute the onion and the mushrooms. Let's continue with this. Let me go get my apron. This is getting crazy. Popping grease everywhere. Not good. All right. So this beef already has a lot of grease in it, so I will have to drain the grease, but then I'll use the butter to saute the mushrooms and the onion, since I won't have the remnants from sauteing or from browning the sirloin. So the other thing we're gonna have to do is our rice. This recipe calls for rice, so while that is still browning, let's get the rice going. So in instructions on our rice, which is just some great value long grain, is 1 cup of rice per 2 cups of water. So 1, 2 cups of water. 1 cup of rice. And then we'll bring that to a boil, cover and simmer. Alright, this is looking pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and drain this. Okay, so cleared my beef, drained it. We'll set that aside. Right, now we need our onion. Mushrooms. And 4 tablespoons of butter. Okay. So get this going. We're 11 minutes in. Smells wonderful. The onion and the mushrooms with the butter, it's good. All right, so we'll get this sauteed. Now let me see what else we gotta do. Okay, so we're sauteing until this is tender. Then we're gonna add the water, the beef broth, and salt and pepper. And let that simmer for 10 minutes. And then after that, we'll add, which was supposed to be the fresh parsley and chives, but we're doing the dry. And then it says to add the sour cream after we take it off the stove from simmering, which will give us that creamy, our white sauce or the stroganoff. But we're gonna put the meat in with the beef, with the broth, and we're just gonna throw everything together, and we're gonna simmer that together for 10 minutes. So maybe that's where all the flavoring is gonna be coming in at. At this rate, this might beat our rice from being done. Gosh, I wish you guys could smell this. It smells so good. Onions are getting pretty tender, almost translucent now. And our mushrooms, I think just a little bit longer, and they'll be tender. I'm gonna go ahead and get our ground beef added. So we're gonna add this, salt and pepper, and the broth and the water, since we're not using the dry wine. Get the broth. Okay. More. With a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Doesn't seem like a lot. And pepper. I feel like we can do a couple of dashes. All right, rice is boiling. Turn that down. Simmer. I'm going to bring this back up, our meat back up to a simmer, and then I'll turn it back down, or to a boil, and then simmer, and then I'll turn it back down. All right, so we're kind of at a simmer now. I'm going to go ahead and start the timer for 10 minutes. And we are at 17 minutes and 34 seconds. It's coming together quicker than I thought it would. It still smells good. Like I still smell the onion, but I don't really smell a whole lot of other flavor. Okay, we're 4 more minutes. 4 more minutes, and then we'll add our sour cream and parsley, and then we'll plate it, and we'll call time. So we're at 22 minutes and 51 seconds. I think our rice is just about done. Oh yeah, we're starting to stick. Well, let's call that good. Turn that off. So just to show you, I'm going to go ahead and get this ready for our beef. 2 more minutes. 25 minutes. Almost 26 minutes. Dang, if this is only 26 minutes and all I have left to do is put the sour cream in it and get that warmed up and, you know, heat it through, this is possibly going to beat the Campbell's, because Campbell's was browning and then 45 minutes of simmering after it was brown. Although looking at this, it doesn't look much for flavoring. Hopefully this sour cream and that parsley is going to bring it home. One minute. 1 minute left for simmering. So it's 1.5 cups of sour cream, which is about what I have left in here. So we'll add this, and then we're supposed to let it simmer, stirring constantly. All right, there's the 10-minute mark. Let's get this in here, stirring constantly. Okay, let's stick this in here. Sour cream smells good. There's that creaminess. It's not very thick. Like the sauce, it's not very thick. There's nothing really in here to thicken it, because it didn't even mention using flour for the sirloin. Yeah, you know, sometimes you flour it to brown the meat and then it'll thicken up the sauce, but nope, it was just, it was just butter. So we're stirring constantly. We're supposed to bring this back up to a boil. This is a lot. It's a lot of food. Okay, it was a tablespoon of parsley that was fresh, so probably about a half for dehydrated. Get that mixed in. $30 minutes and 23 seconds. I'd say we're done. This looks done. I'll turn that off. Let's get it onto the plate so we can stop the timer. It is runny. You know, the broth, which the rice will pick that up, but that is time. So 30 minutes and 59 seconds for our American Home All-Purpose recipe. All right, so I'm gonna set this aside because I wanna try both of them together, side by side, so we can compare kind of what we're really looking at. So move this aside and then we'll get ready for recipe number 2. Okay, so now we're on to our second recipe, which was from the Campbell's Cooking with Soup cookbook. And our ingredients for that was going to be the 1 pound of round steak, but because of the cost, I decided to do the ground beef. So we're doing ground beef for that. And we'll need a half a cup of chopped onion. I think this small onion will do that. We'll have our 10-ounce can of cream of mushroom soup, some butter, water, and sour cream. All right, so I'll get the meat over to the stove and then I'll start the timer. Get my meat smusher. And while that is starting to get going, I'm gonna go ahead and chop that onion up. You all have seen me chop an onion, so. Oh, you know what? Starting the timer. Almost forgot. So I was supposed to put it in with the butter, but because this meat is pretty greasy, or at least it was on that last little bit, I am gonna wait to put the butter in. Let's go ahead and get our noodle water going. It doesn't really say how much noodles or rice, it just says enough to like serve the stroganoff over. I'm gonna just make a small amount of noodles because my husband just likes to eat stroganoff without anything else. But I do like noodles, so I'll eat mine with noodles. Okay, that came together pretty good. I'm gonna skip the butter and just leave the fat that's in here because I feel like that's probably about maybe a little more than what the butter would do, but I don't think the butter's gonna help it. 1/4 cup of water, our condensed soup, 1 whole can of that. We get all of it. Let's see, are we supposed to add the sour cream in too? Let me turn that down. This is already like nice and thick. It's way thicker than the other recipe. 1 teaspoon of paprika. So this is a 1/4 teaspoon. So I'll do, or was it 1/2 teaspoon? It was a 1/2 teaspoon. So 2 of these to 1/4 teaspoons. And then 1/2 cup of sour cream. And it does say to put the sour cream in there and cook over low for 45 minutes. Interesting. All right, so there's 1/2 cup of sour cream. Put that back on the heat. Get this stirred in. Honestly, I just smell onion, and I think I dropped some stuff on the stove because I could smell just stuff burning. So it says cook on low. So this definitely has a much better consistency than our first one. Let me take that off. For just a minute, it's getting a little hot. So we're at 7 minutes. 7 minutes and 40 seconds for that to come together. So now it's just covering and simmering. Let me make sure it says to cover it. Yep, cover and cook on low. So put that there. Gosh, I've got that on 1. And I'm afraid it's gonna burn. Trust the process. Trust the process. All right, 45 minutes. Surely we don't need 45 minutes, right? That was more for like the steak, I think. But we did follow the instructions, the same as if we were doing steak on the other recipes. So I feel obligated to kind of do the same thing here, although I feel like I might need to add some water. Ooh, and I retract what I said earlier about the noodles. It does say 2 cups of noodles, although it doesn't say dry or, nope, it does. It's cooked noodles. So 2 cups of cooked noodles is what we needed. Okay, I'm gonna give you a break and I'll come back when we hit the 45 minutes. So we're already over the, what was it, 30 minutes for the other recipe. So by time, our from scratch was actually faster, but I really think after looking at these two that we're gonna have a flavor discrepancy where Campbell's definitely looks more flavorful than the from scratch recipe. So hang tight. Okay, so we just did the 45 minutes. This is what it looks like. Probably definitely should have drained the grease on this thing. We actually got like 1 minute left, but I'm gonna go ahead and cancel and pull it. Like, we're good. So what you missed out on was I did finish the noodles. So let's get this plated so I can stop that timer. All right, there we go, plated. And we are at 53 minutes and 10 seconds. All right, there we go. Show you kind of what it looks like there. Let me get a good couple of close-ups and then we'll do our taste test. All right, this is from scratch. There we go. The sauce is thinner, but it has, more sustenance to it, I feel like, with the mushrooms. And then we have the Campbell soup, which is a much thicker sauce on it over the noodles. So definitely the from scratch was quicker than the Campbell soup, but I feel like we probably benefited in flavor with this one, but let's give it a try. So here's our cookbooks, and I have these mixed up, so let me switch these around. That one belongs with that cookbook, and this one belongs with that one. Okay, so one more time before I do the test. So this cookbook, American Home All-Purpose Cookbook, made us this plate. Okay, and then our Campbell's Cooking with Soup gave us this plate. All right, first up, all-purpose cookbook. So this is served over rice. This is the one that was made from scratch. I'm really surprised at how much flavor it has. It's really good. It's still a thin sauce, but good flavor. I taste the onion, the sour cream. It has enough salt in it. It's good. All right, now for Campbell's. This is the one I figured was going to have more flavor just because the sauce ended up being thicker. Get some more of that meat. Okay, so the meat sauce is thicker. It does have flavor, but it doesn't have the distinct flavor that the other one does. The other one I'm able to pinpoint, like I taste the beef broth, I taste the sour cream, like I can individualize what I'm tasting. This one is very much all muddled together. It's really just like a creamy meat sauce. Like, I'm really surprised. I could probably use some more salt on it. Okay. Let me get a drink and then we'll do a quick review. Okay, so I went into this with the question of, does cooking with condensed soup actually save time? And the answer is, no, it did not. We compared two recipes from the same decade, only 2 years apart, and our from scratch recipe from the I keep wanting to say All-American, but it's the American Home All-Purpose Cookbook, actually took us a total of 30 minutes. And our Campbell soup one took us 45 minutes. Well, actually total of like 53 minutes and 10 seconds to be exact. But I will say I could probably have pulled that off sooner because we used the ground beef, but because I was trying to follow the instructions as it was written, we let it, cook on low for the 45 minutes. The only decisions I had to make really were for the all-purpose cookbook, in that I didn't have the parsley or the chives, and so I had to find substitutions for that. And then it didn't specify how much rice I really needed for that recipe. But Campbell's was pretty straightforward, very direct. The instructions were very easy to follow, not that many steps. I would say that so I feel like the Campbell's recipe maybe saved time with like how much you had to buy or spend time buying groceries at the grocery store. Like you only had to buy 8 items for the recipe instead of 12. So it maybe saved time in shopping, but maybe saved money too in not having to buy the extra items like the mushrooms, the parsley, and the chives. So if I were cooking this today, I would have chosen the Campbell soup more out of convenience for, less ingredients that I had in the house. I usually have Campbell's soup somewhere, so that would have been an easy toss in, But if I wanted flavor and quickness, I'm definitely going to choose the from scratch recipe. So it didn't really save time, and the from scratch actually has more flavor. So it was not a win to me. That's kind of where I'm at. So if you had fun watching me do this or hanging out with me, stick around. We have loads more of recipes to go through and try. I have lots of vintage cookbooks to get through. So until next time, keep cooking, and I'll see you whenever we open up the next recipe.